Hey, it's Austin.
Hey, Austin, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Well, I'm excited to talk to you.
Thanks for chatting with me.
Oh my, this film is so incredible, Austin. Well, I know a few people that have had transplants, but one in particular, he was a paraplegic, and that's something you do so well.
Yeah, no, it's tragic, and that's, I mean, boxers, in the film, he has a condition that makes him ineligible. So it's, yeah.
The minute I got an email with a tiny little synopsis about your film, I'm like, I emailed the publicist back and briefly told her I said, I have to see this film.
Wow.
I have to. But what?
Yeah, I can see why the film resonated.
And what you do so well here, and I have to commend you on this, Austin, is you tackle these very issues that I witnessed firsthand. You tackled, okay, do we go with money? Is money at the root of this? For whatever reason, be it to save a hospital, be it to further science, do we throw the baby out with the bathwater, and just because somebody is overweight, but they have such a will to live that they will literally will themselves to survive? Do we throw that away? Corrupt administrators, corruption within these programs, people that don't want to make a decision, and want to abstain from everything. Well, then don't be on the committee.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's like my jumping off point was like the question, is it justifiable to sacrifice one life to save many? And I think that question is at the core, and it permeates through the film.
The trepidation, and this is where your casting of Julia Stiles, she is so stoic as Taylor in this film. The only time we see any real emotion from her is when she's fighting for Walter. That he should be the one, that he has the will to live. He has a family. He works as a doorman. He's putting his kids through school. She makes an impassioned plea that really falls on deaf ears. But she's listing all the reasons why you choose someone. He may be overweight, but somebody who with a known drug addiction, and just because they have money, why should they get bumped up on the list?
Yeah, and she is our guide. And it's interesting because everybody falls on either a side of idealism or pragmatism, which is another thing. And Jordan's an idealist.
I mean, I love what you do with her character, and Julia's performance is so rock solid.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's great. She's great, and she is the purest character. But I like that stoicness about her. She has that naturally, and I thought that would work really well for Dr. Taylor.
Yeah, you did superbly casting her. But what you also do that I love with this film is not linear, but it is linear because you've got two storylines running parallel. You've got 2014, 2021, essentially, and you're just cutting between them and being able to see the changes, especially in Kelsey Grammer's character of Andre Boxer, seeing the changes between 2014 and 2021 is really fascinating. I don't think I've ever seen Kelsey do anything this intent with this much of a character shift while still staying miserable and grumpy and wanting no outside influences.
He that's why he wanted to do this. He called me and he was like, I've never done this. I've never played this guy before. I think it would be interesting because nobody's expecting.
I was not expecting it, and I think it's an award-worthy performance from him.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I really do. But then you set up this great and the great confrontations really come in the 2014 timeline. You got Janine Garofalo, who is superb as Gilroy, and
so good.
And the games that she's playing, and it's all about not even the hospital. It's about her, because she's running this, and oh, they got demoted, and oh, we've had people die, and I look bad.
Yeah.
It's all,
she's fighting to save her career and her program, and she's just been beaten down. I always imagined 20 years earlier that she was like Dr. Taylor, an idealist who was just beaten down from years of toiling away in the system.
Well, you've got a great line in there that Kelsey's character, a boxer, tells her, there was a time years ago you were a good doctor. That's how I'm going to remember you.
Yeah, I'll try to remember you that way. Yep. That's also personally my favorite scene in the film.
Talk about cut it with a knife. That was incredible. Incredible. And
she also says in that scene, which I love, she's like, I've got 2 failed marriages and 3 kids that won't talk to me to prove it. Like when she's talking about the hospitals of her life, it just says it all about her.
And it's not even that the hospital is her life. It's that it's her. It's all about her. It's not that the hospital is in trouble.
Yeah.
It's about her, because she's the one who's orchestrated this committee. Yeah, and she's doing something wrong. When you have this many people dying, granted, it's always a risky surgery. Any kind of transplantation is risky. Any kind of surgery is risky. But when you have a really bad track record like that, it's like you got to look to the person who's implementing this program. Who's making the decisions? So she's making really bad decisions.
Yeah.
Which opens it up.
Coming from a place of pure desperation. And ego is certainly involved in that.
So to see you bring all of this forward, and with the 2021 timeline, by the time we get to the 3rd act, and we realize that Boxer, he really does have a heart, that he could have done something for himself. And he chose to put everybody else. He took his Hippocratic Oath very seriously. Physician, do no harm. And
it's that contradiction. I mean,
yeah.
And he does ultimately prove that, but he's this brilliant, broken man, emotionally just broken, who's incapable of being loved. But at the same time, he's trying to save the world. I love that contradiction in his character.
It's absolutely fantastic. I know that Mark St. Germain wrote the play, and then you adapted this. How much of the play did you incorporate? How challenging was that adaptation? And how much fresh material did you infuse to make this cinematic?
I would say that it's inspired by Mark's play. Mark's play took place solely in the boardroom, I used a lot of the ethical debates that he created. But there are some major differences. Actually, I believe the only character that is still the same is Father Dunbar, as otherwise they're different characters and their names have changed. And I created the entire 2021 storyline just because I thought it was interesting. After I read it, I started thinking about the choices we make and how they affect the course of our lives. And I thought it would be really compelling to explore how this one decision could ripple through time and change the course of many different lives, and also potentially the world as a whole, the whole transplant system, because the technology Boxer's working on would essentially solve the worldwide organ shortage. And so I liked it felt right, and it felt organic to go there with it.
It really does, and it really rounds out the perspective for people to see this. It gives the average person, the average lay person, who may at some point be facing issues like this with themselves or their family members and loved ones, it gives you a more rounded sensibility of questions you should be asking of the healthcare professionals, of UNOS, looking into the ethical nature and unethical nature of black market organ purchase, and what happens? You have a very key scene. Okay, we have an issue with a black market heart that's being bought. If it's not put into this one person, what happens to it?
Exactly.
Does it get wasted?
Yep. And would that heart give him enough time to
do what he needs?
Crack, to crack that technology that he's working, which is based on it's based on CRISPR, and there are companies right now that are very close.
Oh, yeah.
So they say to be able to figure this out. Like, they're doing the pig-to-monkey transplantation as we speak, and they're going through those trials. And so there's a company called eGenesis that's at the forefront of that I modeled X Origins on in the film.
Yeah, no, your science is spot on with what's happening. Your ethical debates are spot on with what's out there and the way they are intensifying in a world where that's controlled by money.
Yep.
And the cost of the research and the cost of running these transplant programs at hospitals. And I love how you get in there. Okay, well, he has no insurance. I love it when a filmmaker and when a writer includes that. You always have to get in there about the health insurance issue.
Yeah, completely. And they call it a wallet autopsy in the film, which I think is a really interesting
It's
term.
Great. Because you constructed these two timelines, I love the visual tonal bandwidth of the film on the whole. The 2014 timeline, I love how you and your cinematographer, I love Matt's cinema.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he did Nostalgia for my friend Mark Pellington.
Oh, you're friends with Mark.
Yes.
Yeah. Matt does a lot of work with Mark.
Yes, he does.
On the music video side as well.
And he has for quite a while. And I love what he does with visual tone. And here, what the two of you design, your 2014 timeline, you've got your clinical hospital boardroom and your hospital hallways in a sickly yellow. You didn't go for the sickly green that most hospitals have. You went for a sickly yellow, which also you've got the metaphor of yellow, caution, that yellow always signifies.
I'm glad you picked up on that. You're very right.
And
the 2021 is blue.
The 2020 is blue, but it's also not a straight blue. It kind of has the slight greenish tint to it.
Yeah.
With the steel, too. And that is go forward. And especially in the surgical, in the makeshift operating room, hermetically sealed operating room you've created. And the lighting is so spectacular. And your attention to detail.
I will tell Matt that.
Oh my God.
He'd be very happy to hear that.
I love your lensing here. I love what the two of you have done. You maintain close ECUs. You use very judiciously but very effectively with Kelsey. That's the only place you're using ECUs or on the actual organ.
Yeah, and if you notice in the 2014 timeline, we start to move it closer gradually over the course of the film. So by the time we're in that last scene in the boardroom, we're finishing out and they're making the final decision on the heart. We're pretty much all in close-ups at that time. Yeah. And so if you notice the way that the first boardroom is edited, it's all played in mediums and wider shots. Yeah, and you get a big overview, of all the players at the table, and then slowly. Okay, we see each player and what they have to say, but there's always somebody else in the frame. And then, as we have, okay, back in 10 minutes. Okay, back in 10 minutes. Okay, back in 15. Yes, you hone in. Yeah, exactly. Each one of those we did as like a separate segment in the editing room, and we just, before we even started editing the rest of the film, and developed that visual style, which has to do with editing as well. I mean, really, really well done, and it's kudos to your editor, Alan Canant. Yeah, he's great. And he was like, "This is the most challenging film that I've ever edited." And I think he would also say the most rewarding for him. And the only time you really punctuate us with color is with the heart, and exactly. That's a good catch. That's the only time. And, and it's red. So, red, it's love, it's danger, it's life. Yep.
And you're
It's interesting that you got that, because we did push the saturation during the color correction on the shots of the heart.
Because, hearts are normally, like, pale pinkish.
Yeah.
So I love the look of the heart. It's like, oh, did we shift to a horror film here? Just for the heart.
Yep.
Talk to me about the setup for the animal to animal, the pig to monkey surgical procedure, because that is so intricately designed, Austin.
Yeah, we built all of that. So Tom Denier, who's like an FX guru, we built the pig and the monkey from scratch, and he basically created a heart with a motor in it to make it beat.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very challenging, and so we had models. So we basically real animals like the pig and the type of monkey that we wanted we wanted them to look like, and we measured them. We took many photos, and we gave them to Tom, and he just built them from scratch.
Wow. And even in the way that you and Matt shoot the surgeries, and as we see the handing off of the heart, the pig heart, into the surgeon's hand, into the next surgeon's hand, and then placed in the chest of the monkey. That is so exacting. How difficult was it to execute those scenes from not only a lensing standpoint, but a performance standpoint?
Yeah, we owe a lot of that to the medical. So we had a medical consultant on set every day, and so because one of the things that I wanted was I wanted it to feel, those scenes to feel very realistic, and I wanted to get to the point where people weren't grossed out, but they really felt like they were watching a surgery. And so the medical consultant was working with both Kelsey and myself and Julia in the scene that she performs the surgery. And so that's it all came about from, that's really the way it works inside an operating room.
I've witnessed surgeries. I've been there and seen surgeries before, and the precision was impeccable.
One thing I didn't realize is that they tap the heart in order to get it to start beating, and you'll see that a couple times in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Which I didn't realize, and the medical consultant told us about it. I was like, yes, let's go with it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool because we set it up in one of the earlier surgeries, and then in the very end, when she does the pig to monkey transplant, and she taps it, like, you know what she's trying to do, and you know what she's waiting for, so it's a visual cue.
And I know that about heart transplants, and I see this thump, and I see nothing happening, and it's like, oh my God, no. No.
Yeah, and there's that beat in the end where she's just waiting for it to beat.
And
it does.
Oh,
I love that.
I mean, I'm sitting there, I was so crestfallen. It's like, no, don't tell me that Austin is going to do this to me. But, I mean,
it's interesting because you could have, it leaves people, because I tested it, like if you didn't have it beat, people walk out of the theater feeling a different way. Like, it really does make a difference in terms of like offering, because I wanted to offer a hopeful message about the future. And I wanted to, there was a world where we would imply, where we'd make it ambiguous and just cut away before it starts beating. But I think, like, I don't know, I think we want that satisfaction at the end, that there is hope,
Oh,
to be clear.
Because if you end this film without a beating heart, you've got this gorgeous close-up, and if you just either zoom in, a lens zoom into black, or dissolve, or a fade, or just a cut to black, it would have been like, okay, why?
Exactly.
Why do we
the
even?
counter to that is like, I definitely stand by it, and I think we needed it, and I think it's so much more satisfying that we have the heartbeat. But the thought was, like, if you didn't have it beat, it's just the idea that Jordan took over Boxer's work, like, gives you hope in and of itself. But certainly, I think the beat is, is necessary.
Taking over the work is one thing, but without some kind of success there or progress, then people will start questioning, why do transplant research? Why even bother? Because we already had,
Of course.
we've
Yeah,
got
and you
one
don't want
patient
that
dying.
ambiguity.
We already have one patient dying before she even gets opened up.
Exactly. No, you don't want the ambiguity in the end, and I think it's nice that it does speed.
What's interesting is the fact that we have Jordan with a kid. I find that very interesting that you have Jordan with a kid. It's Boxer's kid, but it's very interesting to watch, like the hope of the future, the hope of the kids are the future. I really found that interesting.
Yeah, and also because they're not meant to be together romantically, and
Right.
I thought that was true to life too. They're in a way like they connect as doctors, as professionals, but romantically they had something for a moment and it was gone, but they left behind this beautiful thing, life, together, and yeah, I think it's very powerful.
Well, and it's
That they have that in common. They have the connection. They have the child together, and that child will live on after Boxer leaves the earth.
going even a step further, Austin, what you did with them having a child, even though he is removed from the child's life, although he very graciously offered to provide financial support. That was really nice of him. But by her taking over his work, it's like another child the two of them have created.
Exactly.
You have so many great metaphors here that really speak so loudly. Everything in this film gives us food for thought. Everything, Austin.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, I wanted it. Yes, I wanted it to resonate on a lot of different levels, and I wanted people like you to be able to pick up on these little details that perhaps a normal audience member wouldn't. But there's, because I wanted to work just as a piece of entertainment. I also wanted to work, as a socially relevant film. But then there's also all the things like the color that you're seeing that I also wanted to work on that level. That somebody, like my father who watches action movies, like might not get, but like that somebody, who's a true cinephile like you would get,
And it's very important. If you and Matt had come up with a visual tonal bandwidth that was light and bright, because yes, we have brightness in the built operating room with the pig and the monkey, but it's that stark, bright, bright white light that is glaring and that's different than natural light. And we don't even have any real natural light but for a couple scenes you have outside between Taylor and Boxer. That serves as its own kind of connective tissue of connecting the world of the past of the hospital, the sickliness of the hospital, with the future technology, and somewhere life is in the middle.
Yeah, this film felt like it called for a style, and we did stay away from, partially because we were in a hospital, and inside we did stay away from natural light, and we wanted to shape like what this world would look like. Because a lot of people would have gotten in there and shot this film with that script and just, had a handheld camera and just let like the hospital be ugly, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted to embrace the style. So.
Yeah, it's very stylized, and you also need that claustrophobic nature because it mirrors who Boxer is.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
and you have the time element.
Yep. And I love the fact you go to the clock a lot. I love that. I love that.
Oh yeah. I appreciate that as well. And also, like, even in the 2021 storyline, there still is a time element as well. Time is running out for Boxer.
Yeah.
So there is a ticking clock in that timeline too.
Well, there's also a ticking clock. Will all those financiers and investors sitting there staring at things, are they going to pull out their money and walk away?
Yep.
And that's a permeating thing that you keep reminding us of in this film. The money, big business and the money.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because in America we seem to commoditize everything, and it certainly speaks to the influence of money, not just on the healthcare system, but on all of our systems. I mean, you can look at the prison system, weapons, obviously politics. I mean, yeah. And so it should resonate on an even broader level than just the healthcare system.
I got to ask you about working with the Newton brothers and the music. Your music is very subtle. Music in this film is subtle. There's no sweeping anything. It's like doctor rushes in, is going to save somebody. We don't have any of that. It's very subtle. It's an undercurrent that's happening. What were your discussions like with the Newton brothers to come up with a score?
We didn't want to overshadow it, and it was all the Newton brothers are fantastic. This is the third film that I've worked with them on. They're very, very talented players, and you don't want to go too big with it because it sits strangely against the material. It needs a subtle feel, the music, and basically the other big challenge of this film is marrying the moments that have a more thrillerish sort of vibe with the drama. And so you want the music to be able to live within both of those worlds. And so and keeping it restrained felt right for this. But at the same time, a lot of the music is really, really great if you isolate it and listen to it. With organic instruments, again, electronic beds. Mm-hmm. So it has a modern feel, but then with these we're using organic instruments, which to me it makes the film resonate more emotionally, and that's a classic sort of feel. So it's marrying classic with contemporary, and that's what we tried to do with the score.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I've been such a fan of your work as a producer for so many years, going back to Jess Weixler and the film Peter and Vandy.
Oh yeah.
That she did with Jason, and then you've done Happy Thank You More Please, and then Melanie Linsky and Hello I Must Be Going. I have loved the work that you have produced.
Oh, thank you
over
so much.
The years. So to get to see what you do here as writer-director, telling this of God Committee and telling this story, you have done an outstanding job, Austin. Outstanding job.
That's so great to hear. That means a lot.
I hope that people sit up and take notice of all of these considerations and issues that you present.
No, me too, and I think it will. I'm very proud of this film, and I think people will connect to it, and it will, and they'll learn something new as well.
Well, everybody needs to learn something new. So
exactly, and we do need, until they figure out this technology, until they're able to edit genes and grow humanized organs in animals, people need to donate.
Yeah,
that's the only way that this system can be fixed, because the system is imperfect, but it's imperfect because there aren't enough organs. Mm-hmm. So if more people donated, we wouldn't have the shortage, and we wouldn't have to have these discussions in boardrooms over, who deserves to get a heart.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that your choices are a young drug addict, a woman, and a man with a family, you really present all the potential options. And not just a man with a family, a man of color, older woman, single woman who's grouchy and bitchy all the time.
Yeah, who's ambivalent about getting a transplant in the first place.
And then a drug addict who obviously he beat the crap out of his girlfriend.
Yep.
So what kind of person deserves something? And what are your criteria? So you really present that inclusivity and diversity factor as well. As to what goes in.
Yeah, no, I thought carefully about those three candidates, and I wanted to make the decision hard for the audience, equally as hard for the committee. So when you put yourself in their shoes, you can see what they're faced with and really feel that. And I wanted to present both sides, all sides actually, of the argument.
Okay, well, my vote. I'm with Taylor on who should have gotten the heart.
I am too. The corruption itself would make me vote for.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was with her. Well, from the beginning, I was with her even before knowing that part.
Yep.
Even before the corruption, just because of the way things unfolded when Tripp came out of the ambulance and Granger, his father, already had a lawyer there.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
The minute you've already got a lawyer standing there, it's okay. There's something we don't want to know about here. There's something untoward happening. No, take him, not her. Take him, not her. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, and all he has to say is, "Look after my boy, Andre."
Yeah, hilarious. I mean, and some of that stuff, I think people, when it's like, no, I'm the lawyer. And I think people will immediately go, red flag, red flag. So, yeah. Job, excellent, excellent, Austin. Do you have anything else coming up that you're going to be directing?
Yeah, I'm just finishing a script right now. It's called Plague, with a exclamation point on the end, and it takes place during the Spanish flu in 1917, and it's about a cook who gets a job working for an affluent family on East Egg, like not in the spirit of The Great Gatsby, and they're all sheltering in place there, and the cook uses the pandemic as leverage to create an uprising with his fellow staff members, and they take over the house. So it's kind of dark, and it's funny. It also has a thriller element as well, and so and it's topical. I mean, it's about classes, and what's interesting is just all the parallels between the Spanish flu and what we've experienced this past year.
I was going to say, I don't think you had to do too much research on this one. Just look at the news every day.
I mean, it's striking, like how similar the issues they had were to ours.
It's like 100-year wars and 100-year floods.
Yeah, not much has changed.
Not much has changed. 100-year pandemics. Yep.
Exactly.
Oh, well, Austin, I can't wait to see it, and I hope I get to talk to you again.
Yeah, no, I would love to. This has been really fun. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Austin, and you have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye, Jim.